Brahma bhuvana lokaha punaravartinorjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. Brahma bhuvanat lokaha, the worlds up to Brahmaloka, the world of Brahma, are subject to return, punaravartina. But on reaching me, upetya, mam, having attained me, having reached me, punarjanma na vidyate. There is no rebirth. O Kaunteya, O Arjuna. So here, as we to understand, Brahmaloka is the highest of heavenly or experiences. You are transported because of your unselfish actions. These are the fruits of your meritorious deeds, which has to be exhausted. So all the worlds up to Brahmaloka are subject to return. So it is a temporary experience that we are transported into until the fruits of your actions are exhausted or burnt. So when one performs actions with noble desires, with an unselfish or a sacrificial nature, with a hidden desire or a laden desire or a motive, he says you are subjected to the world of Brahmaloka. Means the desire is so pure. It's purely unselfish, sacrificial. You only do only for the betterment of humanity. You sacrifice, you go to great lengths for the welfare of other creatures. You put up Goshala. You are trying to save the cattle from being slaughtered. So you are having a huge campaign. You're trying to mobilize resources, construct facilities, have resources so that you can provide shelter for the cattle. So the intention is only to serve. So what would you get for that sacrificial work? Brahmaloka. And what is Brahmaloka? You experience that heavenly state. Heaven is nothing but there is no agitations, there is no pain, there is no agony, there is only bliss. You are transported to that. But that path is a path of return. It is only a temporary phase that you are transported to. Now, can you give me examples of sacrificial work? Can you give me examples of doing service? I took example of serving cattle. You want to do Annadanam. You will put up a trust. You will mobilize resources where tens and thousands of people are fed. What is rewarded for that? Brahmaloka, enjoy that heavenly abode, path of return. Means you come back to where you belong. So any activity, any sacrificial activity, which has a desire backing it, when you act with a desire to serve, such actions come with a clause, which is it binds you, it brings you back to where you currently are, brings you back to the world, the path of return. But then there are also that rare classifications of people that's implied, because one set of people return and this says other set of people on reaching the self, they don't return. So other class of people, they may not be performing only unselfish work, but they also have the capacity to perform selfless actions. Selfless actions, or we must understand selfless as a desireless action. So they are certainly rewarded for the percentage of actions they perform, which is sacrificial. They go to Brahmaloka, they experience that heavenly life. But because there is the selfless actions, they also go through the last stages of sadhana, of meditation. They reach the self. For them, there is no further rebirth. Means there is no coming back to this cycle of bondage, the cycle of birth and death. So the verse talks about these two possible classes of people. Now, time and again, we have been brought out this concept, this idea. So where is our real sadhana? One is to know the matter of fact that these experiences exist. You go through some, because this is coming from an authority. You may not accept it on logic, but you accept it on faith. There is bound to be this cause and effect, which you have to face the consequences. But as a sadhana, what is it that we should do? Where is that little role or the major role you and I should play? Sanjay is very smart today, so I'll have to ask Sanjay only.
The role we have to play based on that is practicing desirelessness.
How would you be able to practice desirelessness?
Through this type of higher study, through understanding and practicing vairagya, that kind of thing, this is where I'm thinking the focus needs to be.
If we just stick to the terms and the context here, not bringing in the concept of vairagya and so on, if we have to achieve that ultimate objective of getting to that state of selfless actions or desireless actions, the job at hand, as far as the sadhana is concerned, what is the real sadhana? What is the real awareness? It boils down to
focusing on the other, focusing on people beyond just yourself, working, making others the priority rather than yourself.
okay. When you make others a priority, what's happening?
At one level, we're recognizing the oneness of things. At others, you are in a way then moving beyond desires. You're not acting to fulfill desires, because desires are generally something of the self. So we're moving the focus away from desires to the benefit of a wider existence of others.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So what we are ending up doing is the entire sadhana is focusing on the motive behind the action. As we understand that there has to be a driving force for us to perform action. So when we act, either we are acting purely with a selfish desire or with a mixture of selfish and unselfish, or unselfish and selfless, or pure selfless. There are certain possibilities. There's always this element of selfishness. So the real sadhana is to use your intellect to be able to analyze your motive that is prompting you to act. What is my motive? Is my motive purely selfish? Or if it is unselfish, what is the percentage of unselfishness in that action? So you will have to come out of selfishness, walk into unselfishness, and evolve out of unselfishness into selflessness. You get it? So it is from selfish desire to an unselfish desire to no desire. From selfish motive, unselfish motive to no motive at all. So it is this hierarchy, is this evolution, is that needs to be carefully examined. So when I'm constantly thrown into action, to what extent am I being selfish? To what extent am I unselfish? So as the motive element gets purified, so when you keep purifying the action, purifying action is defined by the motive. It is not determined by what you do. What you do is determined by your vasana. Whether you are a sportsman, you're a philosopher, you're a singer, or a butcher, is determined by your vasanas. But what defines your action is the motive. So considering it's the motive, so if I constantly keep purifying the motive, a time would come, there is no motive at all left. So it's like cleansing the impurities from the water, the sediments or the impurities that exist, then you have a pure glass of water without any impurities. The second thing we should do is be conscious is to raise the goal that you're identifying with from oneself to your family, to the organization you work for, to the society, to the nation, to humanity. And ultimately you say, I am working for attainment of the self. So when the goal is for self-realization, the actions automatically become selfless. Anything lesser than that invariably leaves a motive. There is a motive. So until you hit that selfless actions, until you hit the goal of self-realization, remember there is bound to be a motive. And as long as there's a motive, the motive is worldly, and that worldly motive will bind you to the cycle of cause and effect. There will be this path of return. The following, Sanjay.
I'm following. I'm just thinking, how is one even capable of that kind of analysis? It just seems like the tiniest thing to analyze is what is the motive behind my action, because it can get to a stage where it feels like every motive is very pure and selfless. But it just feels like I'm not disagreeing with anything at all. It just feels like that level of difficulty, or like, how does one even get there, of having that capability to self-analyze to that extent where every desire is gone? It just feels like, is that a reality? Does that happen? Or is it like a theoretical possibility?
No, I'm not. It's not a theoretical for a classroom like this. It's a practical exercise we're telling. The actions are performing. For what are you doing? Example, you're running a business. What are you running the business for? Keep asking that question. For what? I ask you, what are you running the business for?
Yeah, I'm understanding. I think.
What would you say? Help me.
Okay.
Nothing personal here, but help
Sure.
me decode, because you say, is it theoretical or practical? You know.
Okay. I'm running a business to generate an income to run my life.
Okay.
I'm running a particular business because it's something that I enjoy doing.
Okay.
I'm running a business because it gives me a certain freedom in how I want to live my life. So I'm not pinned to someone else's way of someone else's hours and schedules. Yeah, that's why I'm running a business.
Okay. So if I analyze your answer, just an example. So you say you're running business for livelihood. It gives me a certain amount of freedom. And what else you said? I enjoy doing it. So in all of that, if I may ask, where is that spirit of sacrifice? Where is that a cause you have identified with? I'm just trying to understand by the words. I get freedom. I am not bound. I enjoy. I am doing it for my livelihood. So where is the higher cause? I'm not saying there isn't. I'm only trying to say how I go about analyzing. You get, Sanjay? Okay, even if, let's say, if you had, I'm not saying you didn't say it or if you had said, but certainly you understand that this company, let's say there are 20 employees or 50 employees supported by with their families. So there are 200 odd people under your company's payroll. You see, I am striving to expand this business so that I can ensure that these 200 families have food, they have a shelter, they have some kind of security. They look forward to beyond their mere survival. And I'm trying to expand, I'm trying to do as best I can, because it's not that I need that extra pounds or extra dollars. It's not for myself, but that inspires me to let my business grow. So there is a motive. You're doing it for the sake of your employees. Now, what else can be driving one to perform an action? So there has to be something that driving. So we don't do this process. I'm only trying to tell, on the surface of the action, there are various layers of motives, including why are you coming for this class? Okay, religiously you come, religiously I come. But why am I coming for this? What is the purpose? If anybody tells me I'm only here for self-realization, I don't know how many are there for self-realization. But there has to be some desire to learn. For what? For what are you learning this knowledge? Oh, I'm interested in the Gita. You can just say that. Is it a mere curiosity? Or you can say, I want to become a better person so that it helps me to handle my stress. It helps me to handle, plan my life better. I'm able to deal with my life much better. Or you say, I want to become a spiritually evolved person. I want to evolve spiritually. Or you can even say, I want to attain self-realization. Or you can say, also say, nothing else to do, therefore I'm coming. So why am I here? What is it that is backing my action? So is there a motive? If there is a motive, what is the characteristics of the motive? Is it selfish, unselfish? For what are you doing it? So when you keep probing, questioning until you have an answer, what am I doing it for? For what? For what? For what? That's when you know the real motive behind the action. So keep questioning your own action, what you're doing it.
Yeah, actually, you've highlighted my blind spot. The blind spot I had when I asked the question earlier. I was thinking, how does someone who's already pure, how does he identify the last thing? But there's a lot more grosser things that one needs to analyze first, just in the day-to-day thinking and doing. Yeah, so I was thinking too far ahead almost. It's like, no, get back into the now of what am I doing in my day-to-day life and why am I doing it? What is the motivation there? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm back.
Great.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes, Ashama.
What would you call such a service if it is tended to a terminally sick person for a few months? Would that be, I mean, there is no motive other than on humanitarian grounds. What would be termed as unselfish, selfless?
I get what you're saying. We get a lot of sound as well. So I'll mute you for now. And then if you have something to comment, please comment now. But as you say, somebody is terminally sick. On humanitarian grounds, Situji is saying you are unselfish plus selfish. Selfless is too far. If you're doing it because you have a certain identification, you feel for the other person, you feel other person suffering, and you are able to provide, it could be material service, it could be emotional service, it could be physical service. You may not have material service to do, but you can only give because you don't have the material service to do. Or you may not have the physical ability to do physical service, but you are able to provide material, emotional service, let's say. Irrespective of what service you render, it will only be selfless if you say, I want to attain moksha through this action. Are you thinking of self-realization through that act of performing any kind of service to that person? If the thought of the self lingers in and through that action, that means that action is being used as an oblation, as an offering to the self. So whenever you oblate or offer, it gets consumed in the flame of the fire, isn't it? So when you offer your action and the desire, it gets consumed in the fire of the goal of self-realization. So the desire gets burnt out. So more often than not, it is unselfish. Let's say the person to whom you have rendered service is ungrateful to your service, has misunderstood your service. Would you still continue to serve? I'm not being personal when I ask this question, but I'm saying if there is that element of lack of recognition, you're not recognized for your services, would you still continue to serve? To that extent, then there is less selfish.
No, as I said, he was terminally sick. He was given only 2 or 3 months to live.
Okay.
So he did, in those days, we didn't have chemotherapy, it was only radiation. So for Ambernath, I would take him to Tata Memorial 5 days a week for 8 weeks. A couple of months later, he died. He didn't want to go back to his children, and he was not in the prime of his youth. So I said, okay. And then the local doctor, he helped me. He said, if there comes a stage when he is bedridden, then maybe I will arrange for his stay in some hospital in Bombay. So he asked me, what do you want to do, Asha? I said, I don't want to throw him out like that. So he said, okay. I mean, I don't know, at that time there was no thought. I mean, I didn't even know these terms of unselfish or selfless or anything. It just so happened. This was about 27, 28 years ago. So now the thought just struck me. I mean, I just thought कि ये भी एक भगवान का बंदा है.
A very lofty thought. It takes a lot to bring out that element of sacrifice which you have done. But again, I'm not holding it on a lighter note, because if I can say that you're not sought self-realization, that it.
No, I mean, pata bhi nahi tha.
Right. No. So it is certainly an unselfish action, and it also brought about a great sense of satisfaction for you. You felt very happy doing it, So great level of unselfishness, but there is a certain amount of self-satisfaction as well exists.
Probably.
Okay. Great, ma. Great. Yes, Hariji.
Yeah, I have a couple of doubts in this connection. This verse, is it part of Karma Yoga?
Karma Yoga.
Well, because he is again describing how we have to do, so that how we have to act, so that there we will reach the path of non-return.
Oh. We are converting it into an applied philosophy. He only says the path of return, path of no return at all. But we are talking in terms of abhyasa, how to
act.
Not how to act, in terms of how to analyze your action. What is the hidden motive behind the action? We're not telling you how to act, we're telling how to analyze what is the motive behind the action. That's all we are saying. Okay, so you can't say karma yoga here. That's a too strong a concept to be used here.
Okay, I have probably I will talk to you separately. I got a couple of things to. It can be perhaps it may not fall within the purview of context class. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. We'll take up verse 17. Sahasrayuga paryantam aharyad brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha sahasrayuga paryantam aharyad brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. Those people who know the day of Brahma, which ends in 1,000 yugas and ages, and the night which ends in 1,000 yugas, they know the day and night. So this is actually a typical language of the Shastras. The typical language of the Shastras, or the Upanishadic language he is speaking. Now, the masters are seriously trying to convince us of the limited and the finite joys of the world. Throughout the Shastras, they use a qualitative, and here is a context where they use a quantitative description to convince you of the joys of the world vis-a-vis what is the joy in getting to the state of Brahman. Okay, now one yuga, an eon or a vast age, consists of 4 earthly ages. Now, please take a snapshot or capture this piece of information, which will help you understand what I'm saying. So the 4 yugas, the Satya Yuga, the Treta Yuga, the Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. These are the 4 yugas. All 4 yugas put together forms one Mahayuga. So one Mahayuga equals 43,20,000 human terrestrial years. If you add up all the 4 yugas, Satya Yuga is 17,28,000 terrestrial human years. And then there's Treta Yuga, there's Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga. Don't ask me how they have calculated. It has been done. The Shastras, some brilliant intellects have done it. So we are in the stage of Kali Yuga. So the shortest of them all, 4,32,000, is the Kali Yuga. So I don't know how close we are to the end, but people were saying 2020 was the end, but still we are alive and discussing. So there's no end yet. So 2012 they were saying, wasn't it? So the Kali Yuga is the shortest, and one Mahayuga is that figure. And 1,000 yugas, 1,000 yugas is 4.32 billion human years. So that's a staggering figure. Huh? So 4.32 billion human years is equivalent to 1 day of Brahma, which is 12 hours of Lord Brahma. So this 12 hours is known as a kalpa, which is the period of creation, which is the day. And then comes the 12 hours, the 12 night hours of Lord Brahma, which is another 4.32 billion human years. So 1 day of Lord Brahma is 8.64 billion human years. So 24 hours of Lord Brahma equals, Mayama, are you following? I know it is little mind-boggling figures, but 24 hours
equal to 8.64 billion years.
Yes, 24 hours of Lord Brahma is 8.64 billion human years. That is 1,000 Mahayugas, which is 1 day. All right. Now, the lifespan of Lord Brahma is 100 such years, which is 8.64 into 30 into 12 into 100. And what is that figure? We're only talking about 1 day is 8.64. Imagine what would be 100 such years. Now, here is a staggering figure. Okay, whatever that figure be. Now, what do you understand? What are they trying to convey here? Mayama, what are they trying to convey here?
They are trying to convey that it's in what is the verse? It's like infinity. I mean, there's no end to it.
Now, if I can draw very closely, the subject matter is connected to the previous verse. If you carefully noted, the gist of the previous verse was the worlds up to the world of Brahma are path of return, right? But the worlds of those who reach the self, the Brahman, are not subject to return. Means they have attained
Yes.
immortality. But
Yes.
up to Brahmaloka is return. Now here he's describing what is Brahmaloka in a quantitative
Yes.
description, just to give an idea.
Yes.
So,
Correct.
okay,
Correct. Yeah.
isn't it? Okay. Now this figure, what is it compared to Brahman?
It's still only his 1 day or whatever, 1 day. Compared to Brahman, it's only 1 day for him. For us, it is eons of time. I mean, it's just unimaginable.
Unimaginable.
So,
Eons.
yes. Yes.
So can you know what they're trying to get at? See, it's interesting if you try to get to their heads. What are they trying to say? We said that the joy of Brahmaloka is so high. It is such a heavenly experience that many vast eon years will go by as if it is just 24 hours. Which means you don't feel the solidarity of time.
Okay.
See, we understand the concept of the solid. So the concept I'm trying to convey is the solidarity of time. Means when do you feel the time doesn't pass?
That's it, when you're doing things which you like, when you're happy.
When you're happy, you enjoy doing something, time doesn't stay, it's fleeting. You don't have enough time, as it were, isn't it? Oh my
Correct.
God, already it's finished already. Oh
Yes.
my God, it's so beautiful. You can't capture it. But if the same experience is you don't enjoy it, if there's a boredom, what happens? Time almost comes to a halt. Every 2 minutes you're looking at the watch. Time comes to a still. Now, using that analogy, if 8.64 billion human years goes by as if it is 24 hours, what does it mean?
Means you have reached Brahmaloka.
Means you reach Brahmaloka, right? But that means the joy in Brahmaloka is so high that many vast eon years will pass by as if it's 24 hours. They're only trying to tell you the quality of joy of Brahmaloka is so high. But yet, that experience of Brahmaloka also is finite. Even though it's a mind-boggling figure, it's a finite figure compared to Brahman. Brahman is said to be infinite.
Eternal.
Eternal, infinite. So compared to Brahman, even the world of Brahmaloka is a finite figure. Are you able to get it?
So it also means that the effort you have to put in to get to Brahman is so huge.
Not easy. Not easy at all. Not many people get to Brahmaloka itself.
Yes.
They go to Indraloka and Svargaloka, which is inferior lokas. But to get to Brahmaloka, you need to be extraordinarily pure and sacrificial, and you don't have to live for sacrifice. You have to become a symbol of sacrifice. That's when you get Brahmaloka. But then it is only finite. You finish that, you come back to square one where you started from. to get to Brahman, oh my God, it is a totally different ballgame. Totally different ballgame. But it's interesting how they are able to find ways and means to convince us that this, what you're seeking, is also just a finite thing, man. Okay. Yes, ma. Yes, Sadhuji.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Yes, sir.
So this Brahmaloka and Swargaloka are different, because earlier you said hell and heaven only, and heaven, they are all in mind, and we every day in every action we either go to hell or heaven. This that now use the word Swargaloka, does it correspond to heaven? And then because
Sir,
I was under the impression earlier Brahmaloka is Swargaloka, or that is again a term for a Swargaloka or something like that.
no, see, there are other
Say
of
geographical
the,
location now.
no, this is not for the sake of understanding. You may think it is a physical place, but it's not a physical place. It is a realm of experience. See, it's a heavenly mental state, a state which is free from agitations or any disease, no mental disease. But Swargaloka and Indraloka are said to be inferior realms of heavens compared to Brahmaloka.
In other words, if one reaches Brahmaloka, someone is left with 40 years of life, that goes in seconds.
For Brahma, not for you. You may have 40 years of life, but with reference to Brahman, it is just like a jiffy. But for you, you go through that experience, certainly. But it's a heavenly experience, though. You don't feel that you're aging. You don't feel 40 years has gone by, because you have really lived a life of very fulfilling, life of sacrifice. Otherwise, you keep cursing every other day. Why don't death comes to me? Why don't I die? You keep saying that. No, you go through hell. So which is better, sir?
Brahmaloka is better.
My God, I thought you will say Brahman is better.
And Brahman, ultimately, actually, we are in Brahmaloka when we sit in your class.
Ama. Yeah. In the Madri, I've never seen this kind of pampering, Other day only I was telling, no, Vasantama, we have to be very careful. See, when...
That is the reason we are all coming back to class again and again.
But the teacher is telling, don't seek Brahmaloka, you must seek Brahman, the teacher is saying, and you are saying I'm in Brahmaloka.
We are evolving. It is unless we go to Brahmaloka. But still I have not understood, Guruji, this Brahmaloka is again, you are saying, is a experience here.
Experience here.
What is the difference between Brahmaloka and Swargaloka?
Sir, the difference between Brahmaloka and Swargaloka is Brahmaloka is having Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Swargaloka is having Amul ice cream. And hell is having seeing ice cream, not able to buy an ice cream. As I don't know who says that in the poem Pineapple and the Bee. Hariji, look at that. Who is the author of the poem Pineapple and the Bee? Solongo. In that poem, he says, our dear delights are often such exposed to view, but not to touch. So many think the sight of the foolish heart inflames, we long for pineapples and frames. With hopeless wish, one looks and lingers, one breaks the glass and cuts his fingers. So the poem he's trying to highlight there, our dear delights are often such exposed to view, but not to touch. Means you may like something beautiful, tantalizing, but you may not have the capacity to enjoy it. That is hell. You have desire for it, you can't afford it, you can't enjoy it. but you keep hoping you get that so that you can enjoy it one day. Isn't that hell? It is hell. But the degree of joy varies, isn't it? Of us, I'm because they're using quantitative, I'm trying to describe quantitative. So there's a difference between having Haagen-Dazs ice cream and Amul ice cream, no? Sanjay? Yes, isn't it? You agree, no?
Yes.
It is William Cooper. Yes. Yes, isn't it, Sanjay?
Big difference.
Yeah. But Hariji, when you say Brahmaloka is connected to Kramamukti, but even here, the 16th mantra itself, he says, the worlds up to Brahmaloka are return. They are subject to return.
And
It's
where
not
is,
necessary.
and where is Kramamukti?
Kramamukti comes when Kramamukti is a term that is used liberation in stages.
Yes.
Is where the seeker performs unselfish plus selfless work.
Yeah.
So he gets the reward of unselfish work. He gets Brahmaloka. But because of his selfless work, he gets moksha. So he goes through the experience and his realization is delayed because he has to exhaust his punya. That is Kramamukti, liberation in stages. But a person may go to Brahmaloka and also return. Possible.
So in which loga, I mean, I know that it is a mental, it is a mental state, but in which loka there is no return, path of no return. Even if it is in Brahmaloka, if there is a path of return, then which is the loka where there is no path of return?
No, as long as you perform unselfish desires, you have to, there is a path of return only, no? Which loka it is, I don't know.
Where is path of no return?
Only when you perform unselfish plus selfless, where you have to club selfless work to get to the self through Brahmaloka only. The passage is through Brahmaloka. So it's possible there's something known as Kaivalya Mukti.
Yeah, but then Kaivalya Mukti
The
is
Kaivalya
direct
liberation. They don't perform,
direct
they don't
mukti.
even go to Brahmaloka.
Yeah, there is the question of path of return and no return doesn't come there because it is direct liberation.
Yes. So what you and I must be seeking is Kaivalya Mukti, direct liberation.
Yeah, sure.
Don't be interested in all these lokas.
Yeah, true. Very true.
So, Setuji, are you convinced the difference between Svargaloka and Brahmaloka?
No, Guruji, you said this unselfish is Swargaloka because selfish cannot be. So unselfish, you don't have agitations, you have some happiness, fulfillment. That is Swargaloka. Then unselfish plus selfless is Brahmaloka.
No, unselfish plus selfless is known as liberation in stages, where you get rewards of both unselfish, you get rewards of selfless.
Then what is unselfish alone? If that is Brahmaloka, then what is Swargaloka? In unselfish, you have grades.
So there is also known as remember we explained this in the 4th mantra when we did in the Kaivalya Upanishad. You fall back. There is a mention of the Pitruloka, Swargaloka, and Indraloka. These are other realms of experiences. These are realms of heavenly experiences. They are all path of return. Okay, as Hariji said, just for our own understanding, we will say that these are the 3 lokas where you go through experiences, a path of return. But when you go through Brahmaloka, you are put through a realm of experience which is a path of no return. Okay. So Brahmaloka is a path of no return. The Swargaloka, Indraloka, and the Pitruloka are the paths of return. And then there's also the path of direct liberation, which is Kaivalya Mukti, where you don't go to these lokas at all. It's a direct path. It's like there's no transit. So you go to a destination and you return back because you have something wrong in your passport or your visa. You are returned back. You don't even enter the country.
Kaivalya Mukti is after death or before, during when you are lifetime? See, the realization people have it during lifetime, some have it only on completion.
So we talk about realization when you're alive. There are 2 schools of thought, Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. Jivan Mukti means as you're alive, when you're alive, you can attain Mukti. When you're alive, you can attain. Videha Mukti means only attain realization upon death.
Jivan Mukti also is same as Kaivalya Mukti.
Jivan Mukti says that you can attain realization within your lifespan. It is not, physical death is not required. Kaivalya Mukti is a path. It's a direct path. It's like you're flying from Hyderabad to San Francisco. There's a direct flight from India to San Francisco. There's a direct flight from India, from New Delhi to San Francisco. No transit. Transit means you have to stop. The delays your arrival at the destination. But direct flight, you reach much faster. There is no transit. So there is a delay even when you go past the phase of Krama Mukti. When you go through liberation in stages, a seeker has to enjoy the punya, exhaust it, and then transport to the self. So now what we must understand is all these are possibilities because of the mixture of the actions you perform. It is because a seeker has to be such a high caliber that he only has to perform selfless actions from the beginning to be able to get to Kaivalya Mukti. But if there is an element of unselfishness and selflessness, then it's liberation stages. If it is only unselfishness, then it is Swargaloka, Pitruloka, Indraloka. If it is selfishness, that is what loka you call that? Gayatri Ma has a term for that. If you only perform selfish actions, what loka you call, Gayatri Ma?
In Kali Yuga.
In Kali Yuga. You are in Kali Yuga. See, this is precisely the point we made. Every action we perform has a cause and effect. So we have to be very conscious of what seeds you are sowing. What is the motive behind the actions you're performing? Because you will be subjected to these realms of experiences, which is not physical, but the experience that you go through now. Are you going through an experience of agitation or peace? And is it something which is temporal or is it permanent? That determines whether it is selfish, unselfish, or selfless. Okay, Situji?
Yeah.
Yes, Hariji, anything? What's happening? Try now, Hariji. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any question. I'm clear.
Okay. Okay. Pushpama, you're very serious today.
I'm okay with it.
You okay? So all the lokas you have understood. Huh?
Depending on the life, only we are imagining all lokas.
The passage of life determines what loka we're going through. Right. Okay. Let's move on. 18, please. Avyakta vyaktaya sarvaha prabhavantyah ragame ratyagame praliyante tatraiva vyakta sangyake avyakta vyaktaya sarvaha prabhavantyah ragame ratyagame praliyante tatraiva vyakta sangyake. Avyakta vyaktaya sarvaha. At the approach of the day, aharagame. Aharagame means at the approach of the day, all the manifested stream forth from the unmanifested. Avyakta vyakta. From the unmanifest, everything comes into manifestation. At the approach of the night, they dissolve there only in what is called the unmanifest. Tatra yeva, there only in what is called avyakta sangyake, in that which is called the unmanifested. Now, it's very interesting because we already have the philosophy, it becomes easier to understand. But those who don't have the fundamentals will find a little difficulty to understand what the verse is saying. Now, this verse is talking with reference to the microcosm, with reference to the individual, and the next verse is talking with reference to the macrocosm, which is the world at large. Now, the entire creation, at the approach of the day, all the manifested stream forth from the unmanifested. So what is the unmanifested Whenever we talk of unmanifest, what are we talking about? Sitaramji.
I suppose those things which are within us, but we are not aware of them. That's the unmanifested one.
What is that?
I mean, to give an example of simple would be like these vasanas which are inherent in you, but till you experience something, you cannot know that it was there in you.
So the unmanifest, at the approach of the day, all the manifested stream forth from the unmanifested. So the unmanifest is the vasanas, which is when you are in sleep, isn't it?
Yeah.
As we rightly say, in deep sleep. So from the deep sleep, from the unmanifest comes the manifest. Which is the manifest?
With the desires.
The waker, who is Mr. Sitaram.
The waker, yeah, that's right. So the waker.
That is you.
Yeah.
Isn't it, sir? The individual who you are
Yeah, gets manifested.
gets manifested. No, so at the approach of the day, at the beginning of the day, all the manifested stream forth from the unmanifested.
Yeah.
Then what happens at the approach of the night?
Again, when you go into deep sleep, you'll revert back to the unmanifest.
It is what again goes back into what is called the unmanifest. So the deep sleeper becomes the waker, the unmanifest becomes the manifest, and again the manifest becomes the unmanifest. And this is happening
Every day.
time and again, every day, again and again, again and again, again and again. So the unmanifest, which is, let's say the vasanas you have is for, you are a mathematician, you are a squash player, you are a businessman, example. So these vasanas for maths, squash and business, amongst the many others, what happens to them when you're asleep?
They become unmanifested.
Where are they?
They're in the sleeper.
Yeah, sleeper is another term. The deep sleeper is another realm of experience, another state, but where are they? Intact.
They're in your consciousness.
Consciousness, interesting, has nothing to do with the vasanas. Look, it's just staggering. Just to even, sometimes you can sit and ponder over it and then wonder, my God, how is it happening? All my desires, all my vasanas, as it were, are kept in a place unknown, safe and sound. And I wake up day after day, I am the same person. It's not that the interest for my particular sport doesn't change to other sport. It's not that suddenly another vasana manifests. The same bundle of vasanas I slept with, the same vasanas come back to manifestation, goes in and comes out, manifest, unmanifest. This cycle goes on. And how is it that they're all kept so intact? An interesting thing is not just yours, the multitude of beings. Everybody's vasanas are intact, and it has nothing to do with the physical body. Because you dissect the physical body, it is not contained the physical body. In fact, your emotions and thoughts are also too subtle. The body can't contain it. So forget the vasanas.
It's like it's like a parallel nowadays in our technology that all the information that you have on your computer is stored on a cloud, and we close the cloud. I mean, you close the computer, and maybe look at it afterward, maybe a month, 2 months, whenever, whatever time later, and yet it is there. But till the time that the computer was closed, it was nowhere to be seen or experienced. So it's exactly like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Where is it? We do not know.
It's all in the cloud.
It's staggering. So all these impressions, these mental impressions, which are the vasanas, are known as sanchita, the total lot. The total lot, sanchita vasanas, are all stored somewhere. How is it? It's amazing. And each one of us are defined by the vasanas, and each one of us are helpless expression of our vasanas. Helplessly we're expressing. And he's only saying, at the approach of the day, the time comes, all of them stream forth into manifestation. At the time of the approach of the night, they dissolve therein. So this is what is called unmanifest. So unmanifest is another synonym for vasana. And this is the verse which is you can fall back as an authority. This is the source. Otherwise, you may say, how do you define a vasana? This is why it is. The same thing is expressing in the macrocosm as well. So the next mantra speaks the same thing from the macrocosmic level. So this concept of vasana is it's a beautiful, a staggering concept, and worth you reflect on it to understand what are your vasanas and how it all plays itself. We are all puppets, as it were, dancing to the tunes of what vasanas you have. Okay. Yes, Hariji? You have something to say or no?
Guruji, when they have indicated here as day and night, during the day, it gets manifested from the unmanifested form, and in the night, from the manifest, it goes into unmanifest form. So it indicates that it is coming with the realm of time. And secondly, can I interpret just like how you taught us in Kaivalya Upanishad that it is Adyanta Madhya, Adyam, Andyam, and middle. That concept, can we interpret it here? Adyam is the birth, which is just before the birth, it is unmanifest form. During the birth, when I am born, it is in the manifested form, and my death is again unmanifest form. Adya, Antya, and Madhya is where I am living.
No, that concept of Adhyantamanta is
Adya,
a
Andya,
Madhya, Ama.
Madhya.
And no, that is a different concept. He says the self is the beginning, middle, and the end. There is no death to that. So that is with reference to the self, he says. But with reference to the vasanas, what's the first thing you said?
That is, it comes within the realm of time, because he says that time.
That's what it is. No, we all have a time to sleep. We sleep. So how soon you sleep depends on the nature of your vasanas.
Okay.
How early you get up depends on nature of vasanas. No? If your vasanas compel you to, you get up. If your vasanas don't compel you to sleep, you don't sleep.
Okay. See, even just before the birth also, I was in the unmanifest form. in this world, which can be taken as my waking state. I am in this world, whatever, how many years I may be living. And when I am going to leave this body, that is my death. Then again I become unmanifest form. So from unmanifest to manifest to unmanifest. So the whole life is considered philosophically.
Let's not complicate it. It's a
Okay,
simple
fine,
thing. He's
fine.
saying vasanas,
Okay.
when they are manifested, you are awake. When they're
Okay.
unmanifested, you are asleep. That's all they're saying. Simple. Don't compare பண்ணிட்டு confuse பண்ணாதீங்க.
No, it's okay, fine.
Right, sir. No, I am requesting you, don't confuse your guru. சரிங்களா? தயவு செஞ்சு பண்ணாதீங்க. Simple concept. Okay. Okay. So my only thing is, remember, in the 19th verse is with reference to the macrocosm. Verse 18 is with reference to the microcosm. Okay. We'll come back. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.